Welcome back to another episode of the Isn't That Rich podcast. Today we are talking about super hot topic, life insurance. We're going to be talking about why you need it, who needs it, all the things, whole term, all these crazy things that everybody says with life insurance. And I'm so excited today because we're bringing on the COO of FSB Insurance, the cool guy, Mr. Eric Witges. So welcome on, Eric.
Yeah, welcome on,
Thank
Eric.
you. Thank you for having me today. We're looking forward to it, and good to sit down with both of you.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. We've been wanting to have you on here for a while, and I think life insurance is the perfect topic to have you on to talk about. So,
yeah, absolutely.
First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, Eric. Like, how did you become the COO of Farmers State Bank Insurance?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So I actually started in insurance as soon as I graduated college, and took a position at Progressive Insurance and worked there for 5 years. And actually how I met my wife, she had a car accident, and during the handling of the claim, went out, and when I left her house, I called my coworker immediately and said, I just met my wife. And he just said, whatever.
I didn't know that about you guys.
The funny thing was she was doing nails at the time, and she told her client that was sitting right in front of her, she said, I just met my husband.
What a great
It was cool, you know,
story.
and then
A meet cute.
yeah.
I love it.
And so insurance has always been a part of our lives, and, you know, really just going back to when we met, but it's also played a part of our role throughout our marriage as well. And then had a calling to go back to school and get my education degree. So then went and taught, did the whole superintendency, principal, assistant principal, athletic director role, and just kind of, I'm one to not stay stagnant. And had kind of reached the epitome piece of school leadership and was looking for that next challenge for the second half of my life. And had a really good relationship with the Franks family and Charlie. And so that conversation just kind of came up, and, you know, that passion of seeing change through and seeing things come through just kind of fully evolved into this role here. So really thankful to be a part of this life insurance or this podcast, but also FSB and the family that evolves around it.
We're so glad to have you. Yeah, it was kind of meant to be, I think, at the timing. It just worked out perfectly.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. I love it.
I say let's just jump on in, because insurance, and especially life insurance, is a big topic in the insurance world, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's overlooked a lot too.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are focused on their home and their auto, but life insurance has so many perks that can be beneficial to not only yourself, but your family, you know, and helps in times of crisis. So I think it's a good topic to talk about and look at as an insurance perspective, especially now with, you know, you hear of you know, sicknesses and stuff going on, and people are stressed the way it is. So it'd be nice to take that burden off them, you know, and think about what they could provide for their family after they do pass on.
Well, so that's what life insurance is, just a way to provide for your family.
Correct. To an extent, there's some parts of it where there's different policies that you can contribute it to, almost like an investment piece, where there are some investment opportunities within those as well. But for the most part, most people look at it as a protection for their family after they pass on.
Okay.
So why would I need life insurance? And I know you kind of just answered that, but what are some like really specific reasons why anybody would need life insurance, or who would need life insurance?
Yeah, so most of it's looking at a protection piece. So do you have a mortgage? Do you have a car payment? Do you have a student loan? Do you have kids, you know, that maybe would be going to school later on? And so this offers that protection piece that if something would happen to you, then you would have that protection, that insurance policy that would pay out and allow them to pay off the mortgage. It would allow them to pay off their school, but it also allows them to continue their well-being as a family. You know, if you're the breadwinner of the family and all of a sudden something happens to you, you know, who's going to replace that income and that salary piece? And so that life insurance policy allows that peace of mind for you and your family to have after you move on.
Yeah, it's sad because we see a lot of people that come in here, maybe there was a death in the family or something happens and they didn't have that in place, and now they can no longer pay their mortgage, so they end up losing their home, which is the saddest thing ever to watch somebody go through. They're already hurting from losing their loved one, and so that life insurance policy, should they have had that in place, would have protected them from some of that hurt.
Absolutely.
So
We met with a small business owner this morning. And it was really interesting. We were talking about this podcast that we were going to go on talking about life insurance. And he talked about an employee that he had at his firm that had left the firm, but he continued to make that premium payment for them. And it was about 6 months after he left, he had passed away suddenly. So he talked about how that life insurance policy, paid out to that family a good chunk of money to them, and what it did to that family after he had passed on. And it was just, seeing that realization in him that he realized how beneficial that was. And he said, nothing's ever touched me as much as it did delivering that check to that family in that time of need. Yeah. And, it's tax-free. So it doesn't go a part of the estate or anything like that. And so he just had mentioned how beneficial it was for that family to have that come in. We forget how much everything else is going up in life, but there's burial costs and funeral costs that are high as well. Yeah. So it was just a touching story that you see firsthand.
Well, I think, and you just said we do life insurance. A lot of times we see sick people and they know maybe that they're going to pass away, but life insurance is definitely for those unexpected deaths. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think it's something that you don't want to talk about because no one really wants to talk about the death piece of it. But, if you can get past that and think about what it's going to do for your family as they continue on, and that's the tough conversation to have.
Yeah. So there are different types of life insurance. I want to get kind of more into what it is and what it looks like for different people. Can you explain maybe the two different kinds of life insurance, or maybe there's more than two that I don't even know about, and what each of them, who they would be for, really?
Yeah, for sure. So there's really three we're going to talk about. Okay. We could talk about today. The most prevalent one is term life. Mm-hmm. So it's for a specific amount of time. So it could be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road for that specific term. And it's affordable. So you can budget their amount each time. The fixed payment, it stays fixed the entire time. So there's not a variable in that premium payment. But also it helps meet those financial needs. So you would, sit down with an agent or a financial planner and go through that piece where you're mapping out the needs that would exist in your family. And then you decide as together with that help and decide what type of amount would make most sense for you. But that benefit is only during that term. So, if it's for 20 years and you outlive that 20-year policy, then the benefit goes away.
So would someone do that for, I don't know, let's say they had 3 kids and then they just wanted to do it until the kids were raised? Is that kind of what term life is for? Am I understanding that right?
You kind of pick out that time of your life where it's the most, would be the most needed, the most correct. Okay. Yeah. So, look, you have 2 or 3 kids at home that are teenage kids, and you try to forecast the next 15 to 20 years. What would that look like? You're looking at car payments and a house, a mortgage payment probably, and then, tuition assistance. So it's a good time to look at that time of period of what is the most need in my family or for my family at that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other side would be whole life insurance. And it kind of like the term is for a specific period of time. The whole life would be for the whole life. And so, exactly. If you think about that, it does provide coverage for the whole life of the policy and for the whole life of the individual. So it's a guaranteed death benefit. Unlike the term where if it's only for 20 years, at the end of that 20 years, it expires. The whole life stays in place for the life of the individual.
And you said that term is super affordable or more affordable, right? So
Correct.
That is like a consistent monthly payment for the entire time.
Correct.
In my understanding of what I know about whole life insurance, it starts out with a lower payment, and then as you age and progress in life, it might the
payment can go up.
Premium goes up, or premium goes up. Is that correct?
It can
typically?
Be. Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part, they're fixed premiums. They're just more expensive.
Okay.
So a term's going to be substantially cheaper than a whole life policy, but it's that whole guaranteed piece that pays out for it.
So when you sign up for this, do you kind of know what you're going to get at the end of it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. It has a cash value.
Okay.
So the whole life policy has a cash value to it that allows you to be able to borrow off of it, possibly, take a loan out of it as well. But yeah, correct. It does allow that to happen.
Okay.
Explain more of this taking a loan, because I know that's a big thing in like kind of the investment world. People talk about, I have a whole life policy or a term life that And so explain the cash value thing again.
Well, because we think of like investment strategies, and usually it's like hands off. You can't touch that till you're a certain age. Correct. And so this sounds like you could do something else with it.
Yeah,
right?
correct. Yeah. So it's kind of, you think of it as an asset, really, as a fixed policy or a term policy, it's there whenever you need it. But
term life is like rent.
Kind of.
Term is rent, and whole is
when
a
your
mortgage.
lease is up.
So you've got some equity in it. That's the way we'll look at it.
Right. It is. I mean, it truly is equity because there is a cash value there, and you can go to it if you needed an emergency. Access to those funds is something that you could talk about with your financial representative or your agent, and see how that makes sense.
Does that ding you for anything? Like, do you?
Is there a penalty?
If you pull some money out, does that mean now if I passed away, my family wouldn't get all the benefits of that?
Correct.
Policy?
Yeah, it would reduce the dollar amount of that policy.
Okay.
So there is a face value piece with that, and it does decrease it.
Okay. So there's kind of pros and cons with both term and life. So it's really just looking at it and saying, what do I need for my family?
Correct. Okay. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. The third one is universal. And so we don't see a whole lot of that just because it's more of a true investment piece where there's an earnings potential, yields and that kind of investment interest piece. And so it's way more expensive because of that guaranteed piece of that investment piece as well. So not as affordable as a term because it just doesn't make the most sense for people, but it's an option as well.
Why would somebody do universal insurance? Or a universal policy, sorry.
You're good. So if someone maybe not have a retirement in place, like a 401k or something, this could maybe take the place of that. As they're going throughout their career, they're going out their life, this may be something they want to look at.
Oh, I see. So like, say their company doesn't offer these benefits. Mm-hmm. That could be an investment.
Could be, yeah.
Okay.
Because it has a death benefit.
Right.
And it also has the investment piece as well.
Neat. I haven't even thought of that.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of coverage does somebody need?
Well, how do you
determine the coverage that somebody would need? I guess it is just looking at your family, and I'm sure there's more to it, though.
No, you're good. Really, I think it's the best thing to do is find an individual, an agent, to sit down with you and go over your needs. A lot of people will tell you need 2.5 times this, or there's a certain percentage that you want to get on your life insurance policy. And while that make sense for some people, but I think it's really good to sit down with a trusted advisor and see what your true needs are and go through, what kind of needs your family will be in, and there's some questions, you talk about, what if something would happen to you? Where would your family go? And so it's good to sit down and have that personal relationship. We talk about relationship banking. Yeah. We also talk about relationship insurance too, and building that relationship with your agent and your advisor and just making sure that you're planning properly for your family, because my needs are going to be different than yours, Ashley, and Jill's is going to be different than mine, and that's the great thing about personalizing those is each individual person's different. And so it's good to have that conversation with them. So
what if I, because life changes, what if I gain more assets or I make more money or I don't know, you name it. Can I change my coverage?
Or how does that
my term
work
or
when
whole
life changes?
Yeah, so that would be a time to sit down with your agent and talk about there's been a life change, right? Okay. So it's just like any other life change that you have. If you get married, if you have a child, you want to reevaluate that purpose of where you're at in your life and sit down with them and talk about, my salary is now doubled. And so protection of my family.
Praise God.
But it's something you want to sit down with them and talk about and protect yourself in that manner too. So, anytime there's a change, you always want to reevaluate that with your agent and financial advisor.
We talk about this a lot, but anytime there is a change in your family, whether it's adding a family member or you get it, you need to talk to your insurance agent. And I don't think about doing that, to be honest. I don't think how important it is to have that relationship with your insurance agent. There's more to it than just getting those every day or every annual quotes to see if I can get a better rate. There's more to it.
Sure.
Right. So there is with life insurance too.
Yeah.
Especially with life insurance. I feel like that's probably one of the most important ones because it is, you go maybe traumatic death and then you don't want to deal with financial burden on top of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the benefit of life insurance there. It's not a pleasant conversation to think about. If you're, a parent or a sibling, you don't really want to talk about that with your significant other. It's not a fun conversation, but it's a responsible thing to do too. One of the questions we look at is how would your family feel knowing that you could have gotten protection for them, but you didn't? If you sit there and you think about that for a second, is how would your family feel that you had an opportunity to purchase that life insurance, but you didn't, and what kind of hole you put them in at that point? It's just
it's like, oh.
We say this too. Debt doesn't just go away after you die,
right?
And I think people think that it does.
Yeah,
correct.
It does not.
Correct.
Somebody's paying the bill.
Absolutely.
So I want to know, so you pass away, you have this life insurance plan. Who benefits from it, or how does that come into play? Like, how are there people you put on the account?
Like a beneficiary?
Yeah, beneficiaries. How does that happen?
Yeah, so at the time of your application with your life insurance policy, you're going to designate a beneficiary, a primary beneficiary, and you can relate that out percentage-wise. So if you have 2 children, you can divide it up 50-50 to the children, or if you have a spouse, you can divide it up 50 and then 25-25. And then you also have contingency beneficiaries that you would look at as well. And what that entails is, let's say it's a bad car accident and you and your wife are, killed in the accident, and then your children would be listed as contingency beneficiaries, then that money would go to them on that aspect. And so it's really good to always revisit that conversation and have that beneficiary discussion. And even as life changes, to look at your beneficiaries and make sure they're accurate.
So you can change that as you need to. Say you have your wife on your insurance policy and you get a divorce and now you want to remove that.
Call your agent.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you can change.
Absolutely. You can change those beneficiaries. Yep. And I would stress how important that is. If there is a divorce and you leave that ex-spouse on that policy.
Oh, she's going to be mad.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that? I know you just kind of got back into the insurance game a couple of years ago, but have you ever seen that? Or
I've heard horror stories about it, but I've not experienced it firsthand.
Okay.
Gosh,
No.
man.
No.
I could just imagine that funeral would be really intense, wouldn't it? Okay. So are there anything, I know, because you can't always get life insurance. I know there are people out there that no longer qualify for life insurance. Can we talk about maybe some of those restrictions to getting life or receiving, or what it,
maybe
how
what's
do you
the benefit
qualify?
of getting it younger, like when you're younger and healthier versus when your lungs are giving out and...
Or, medical conditions. I know a lot of
That's what
cancer patients, can no longer receive life
Absolutely.
insurance. So let's talk about some of that.
It's a great idea to look at it while you're younger and you're healthy, and you're not at risk for disease or any type of sicknesses. And so, Ashley, you said it, when you're young, it's going to be cheaper for you to insure that life policy. And then as you...
I know something about insurance.
Yeah, exactly. And so as you get older, you're more at risk for whether it's heart disease or cancer or anything like that, then that life policy just becomes more expensive. Because you are at risk for a life-changing altering, or anything like that. And so it's really important to look at that. Whenever you do buy a life policy, depending on the dollar amount, most of them will go through some type of lab work or doctor questionnaire that they will ask you questions, and they'll also talk to the doctor with a report, asking about your health conditions and what type of health care you're receiving or anything like that. So there's some lab work with that as well, depending on the dollar amount of the policy.
So you have to go get a physical is what it sounds like.
For the most part.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
So you're going to see your doctor and they're going to sign off on your health.
Correct.
And hopefully your health insurance covers the physical.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
$30 copay. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I want to talk about things that you can add to your life insurance, like riders.
Mm-hmm.
Because...
Are you saying rider?
Like a RIDER, rider.
Oh, I've never heard of this.
Not a rider, like as in right.
I didn't know. I'm learning.
So there are riders that you can put in place to supplement your life insurance policy. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. There's 3 critical ones that we really like to talk about and present to our customers. The first one is a disability income rider. And so what that rider specifically looks at is if you become disabled at any point during that policy, you're able to, number one, take maybe an advance on your policy if you are disabled. Number 2, it will most likely allow you to waive your premium during that time, so you're not making with that payments on that life insurance. And if you really think about that, the disability one, how often do you take vacations? You're out maybe a week at a time. Well, why do you go back? Well, because you're out of time and you need a paycheck, right? And so the disability piece allows you to earn some income while you are disabled. And so it's always good to look at that one.
What's the statistic about disability? We always say
1 in 4.
1 in 4 people will be disabled in their lives.
By the time they're 30.
Yeah. And not permanent disability.
No, but go on disability.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is.
So with that disability, I know you want to talk about other riders too, but with that disability, do you still recommend having disability insurance in addition?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think anytime you look at any type of coverage like that, because that disability income coverage is going to be different on the insurance part of a life insurance policy than it would be on a true disability policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. So look at both.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to the riders.
No, you're good.
Tell me about the others.
The other one would be critical illness rider. We would recommend looking at that one too. And what that does is if someone, let's say they have a diagnosis of cancer and, they're terminal, they have, 2 years to live or whatever. Well, you can come in there and get a lump sum payment, like a preemptive payment of that life insurance policy. So it'll allow you to take care of some medical bills, some treatments, and then make that time with your family meaningful. And so if you need, let's say, take a vacation with them like that and do something meaningful for them. But it also helps with expenses, whenever you have cancer or something like that, you're going to have to go to the doctor and you're taking treatments. And so that rider allows you to help take that lump sum payment and do that. So
now tell me, and I think I know the answer to this already, but if you found out you had a terminal illness, then could you add that rider on? Or is the insurance like, no, because no, like you already have it.
Yeah. Most of them have a 6-month waiting period.
It's kind of like gambling, isn't
exactly.
it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate to laugh at that, but really.
Most of them have a 6-month waiting period to give you a little bit of time to, I think if that was the case, there'd be a lot of people just rushing at once, to get that added, but they have to protect themselves too.
Right.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's critical illness, disability, and then did you say there was another one you had?
Yeah, the last one is a return of premium rider on your policy, and it is kind of like an investment piece kind of as well. So your policy is going to be more expensive, but at the end of that term, let's say you outlive your term policy then you would get the return of the premium that you paid over that set amount of times, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is. So it's good to take a look at that one too.
That's nice.
Because you sometimes with the term you think about, I just paid 20 years of term life insurance and I lived
and
through it.
You have nothing to show.
Live through it.
Yeah.
Live through it.
Yeah.
All that money's, you don't own the house.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You just rented, you guys. That's a really great example. I'm proud I thought of that one.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You can
You're
use
learning
that.
more.
You can use that in your insurance sales for sure.
How do I choose an insurance company? When I'm looking for a life insurance,
There's a lot.
I swear I get a call every other day about you need to have life insurance. You need to have, and probably the age I am, and that's why. But how do I know the agency that I'm getting called from is reputable, and what do I look for in an insurance company?
Yeah, great question. We get those calls a lot, right? And then if you turn on TV late at night, you're seeing, hey, buy life insurance for $9.99. It's $9.99 a month for this month. But you really want to just do some research on the company itself and make sure that they have an AM Best rating. And
say that again.
An AM Best rating.
AM Best rating.
Not like AM radio,
but
AM Best rating. And what that is each company has a rating based on their financials and their reputation piece. And so it's always good to look at that rating piece, the insurance company, but also, look at the person you're talking to. You want to look for someone that has your best interest at heart during that time and has a relationship with you in that you're comfortable with talking about your financials and where you are in life. And so that would be my recommendation on that is, number one, make sure the company's reputable on that side. But number two, have an agent or a representative that you trust and have a relationship with, because that's the person you're going to, when you're going to need it. And so make sure you have a good relationship with them.
Yeah. I know you have all these young bucks in the area selling just life insurance, and they want to use it as an investment tool. So I feel like they really target the heck out of you. I had college friends that would call me right when I graduated from college, like, you need to buy life insurance. I had no idea what it was at the time, obviously. But I feel like there's so much pressure there. And so you just really don't want to probably find an agent that's pushing it for the sale.
Correct.
They really have your best interest and actually know how to talk about your goals, your life goals, because you just be stuck in something that doesn't really work with your life goals. So,
or makes sense, right? I mean, that's the whole point of insurance, is to protect your property, you know, and your valuables, and, you know, what's more important than your life on that side of it.
We probably could have asked this question sooner in the episode, but I want you to talk a little bit about, like, should single people with no children consider getting life insurance? And if so, why? And then are there reasons why people really shouldn't get life insurance? Because I don't really believe it is for everybody, correct?
Yeah, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But I would also challenge you to maybe think about this line. You know, let's say you are single and you don't have a child or anything like that, but, you know, if you pass away, so there's a funeral expense, there's stuff like that to be taken care of. What if you have a mortgage, you know? And so I would just consider those aspects when thinking about it. Maybe you don't need a $1 million, you know, policy. Maybe you want a $50,000 or $100,000 to take care of that side of it.
Yeah. So life insurance may not be for everybody, but at some point in their life, it can benefit them, whether it's term or whole.
Correct.
Depending on whether you're married, single, have kids, don't have kids.
Absolutely.
You have $1 million, you have $2 in your bank account.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
So I want to know, if you were to leave people with one piece of advice about life insurance, what would it be?
While it's not fun to think about, you know, that passing piece as yourself, I still go back to that question about, you know, how would your family feel, or how's it going to make you feel to know that you're able to pass something along to your family to help out, you know, in times of need, and to maintain their standard of living. And think about, as the breadwinner, or if you're the only, you know, household member working, think about how you can help your family moving forward. And while it wouldn't take a lot, you know, a term policy is not that expensive. Just think about how beneficial it could be them, you know, during that time of need. And you think about, you know, we hear stories of agents delivering that check to them, you know, on the day that it happened, or, you know, shortly after the funeral or whatever, and just the relief they see because now their worries are taken out. And just think, you know, the personal instances that I've seen it and how beneficial it is, that I think it's really good to sit down and have that conversation with your agent, with your family members, and think about how that would
how that impact them. No, I think that's so good. And I should have asked this earlier too. You talk about one check coming in. Is that truth? There's just one check, that one payment, because you're talking about replacing an income, correct? Is it just one check that they get at the end of life for pay out that policy, or is it installment payments?
That's something. Usually it's a lump sum payment.
Okay.
Yep, usually. And it depends on the policy. You know, a term life probably is going to be a lump sum payment.
Okay.
And then those whole and universals, you know, there may be some different policies and conditions on that policy that would vary that side of it.
Okay.
And you said it's not taxed.
Correct.
Great.
Finally, we found something that's not taxed.
Yeah.
Get your life insurance policies today, folks.
I love that.
So that's the good thing. You know, you hear of estate problems when someone does pass away, and it's held up for 2 or 3 years. But that life insurance policy, you know, is immediate.
So that's something that doesn't
really
go through
cool.
probate, no matter what.
Correct.
Ooh, that's good.
That is very good to know.
Good to know. So there will be some relief if you have an insurance policy in place. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
If somebody were to reach out to you about life insurance, wanted to, you know, ask for a quote or get in touch with you about opening a policy, how do they go about doing that, Eric?
Yeah, so the easiest thing to do is, you know, call our office in Harrisburg, 618-253-7165. Got an email address. We're on LinkedIn. We have a website, and just give us a call. We'd love to sit down and just go over your needs and see how we can protect you and your family, which is your most important asset.
Absolutely. Well, we'll include that in the show notes today, so no one has to remember the phone number or anything, but we'll have it here for them. But
perfect.
Thank you so much again for
Thank
being
you.
on.
Thank you.
Yep, we'll see you next time.
So, Jill, where do we go from here?
Be sure to check out our show notes for this episode, and also be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.